Hey, what's going on, everybody? Snoo here. Welcome back. Today I'm going to bring you a sort of TLDR patch update video on this evidently monstrous patch that's coming in pretty late here in Dawn of the Hunt 0.2.1. And that's how you know it's a really big one, bigger than any mid-league patch I think that came before it. And given the fact that I'm still playing the game and was going to be playing it for the next week or two regardless, this is definitely big news for me. And this might be a case where not every single content creator is making a patch update video since, it's so late in the season. So I figure I'll give you my thoughts. I'm basically going to do this in TLDR form, as well as some of my personal thoughts on the changes. I've kind of skimmed through it and noticed there are some pretty big ones. So it seems to be a worthy situation to make a video on. All right, we'll go over this one section at a time. First section is Endgame Rewards. This is sort of a synopsis of the entire patch notes, and it's basically them saying, after extensive testing, they've decided that, in fact, not enough loot is dropping, particularly chase items, so they want to make chase items more common, which doesn't really make them as much of a chase item, now does it? However, they're going to add a whole bunch of extra chase items, so depending on your definition of what chase is, this is probably good because it's just more of everything, a little bit more common, more total number of items, maybe some more chase items being introduced that are equally as rare as they are now. I figure it's some sort of blend of all of those things, and so I think this is basically going to make every single player happy regardless of how they feel on the state of loot currently. And then the following section, unique items, is kind of getting into the meat of what I just said a second ago, and just them stating outright that you can expect more unique items and more chase items than ever before. Using that phrase than ever before, it's a pretty big claim, so we'll see how that really goes down. All right, we got another section here, crafting Socketables, which is kind of a big one because it basically states that they are planning to take the game in a slightly different direction in Endgame with more potently powerful socketable things. They have the talismans now, and they're the ones, like the really powerful ones that give you percent spirit on scepter or rarity on gear, I guess, if you're into that anyway. But they do state here that generally speaking, people just treat these as fillers for fixing the gear, missing attributes, and resist. And I was just kind of under the impression that's all they were ever going to be. But clearly they want them to be more exciting to pursue. And I guess that's a little bit self-evident in the fact that there's like 3 different tiers of many of these different things, or the runes anyway. So yeah, and then there's the specialized runes that drop off that specific unique map. So yeah, that's kind of exciting. We'll see what becomes of this. I don't really know what the power threshold's going to be, but we'll find out. All right, next up we have Ritual, and this is a really hot button topic issue for a lot of players. Naturally, the player base as a whole is pretty unhappy with the current state of Omens because it is a crafting method that exists that enables players to craft virtually perfect gear, kind of reminiscent of PoE1, but a different system. And yet it's extraordinarily rare and uncommon and requires extreme amounts of grinding to farm up the currency to even attempt to do that. It costs an exceptional amount of currency, typically in the hundreds of divines, to actually make a perfect item. And that's only, and even then you're kind of at the mercy of item levels and where the item levels of different affixes fall. That's getting into the weeds of it. But my issue with Omens is not that they're too strong or too uncommon or whatever. It's just that it's one particular system that completely dwarfs the power threshold of every other system. It doesn't really matter how common or rare it is. If you have one crafting method that has a high level of determinism and every other method, whether it's Exalt slamming, Chaos spamming, Essence or Recombinator, that is extremely difficult to use, it's insofar as making a perfect 6-modded item at least, then that's just bad game design, I think. And I'm more concerned with the root cause issue here, the root problem. And that is that Omens are just way too powerful compared to everything else. So either the developers need to make the decision to make this a more craft-oriented game and move the other crafting systems up in strength, or they need to tone Omens down and rework them, scrap them, whatever, and then the game would become a much, much more drop-oriented game and then focus more on, improving tiered rares, things like that. I would actually like the latter more. I'm very biased, and I know that most people probably won't agree with that because they like PoE1's crafting system. I personally prefer, vanilla D3, Diablo 2, those systems. As far as crafting, it exists. It's something you can do, and it can even become best in slot gear for certain situations. But in the vast majority of cases, you are dropping the item that is what you're going to use, and it's you're just over the moon when you actually see one that's good enough, worthy enough to be considered even anywhere near perfection. So yeah, long and short of it is, this doesn't address the core problem with Omens of Ritual. It's going to make players happy in the short run. It's not going to make anybody happy in the long run, though. Corrupted Essences, though, this is another method of crafting. While we're at it, they said we're going to improve the commonality of getting Corrupted Essences when using Battle Orbs on monsters. I mean, this is kind of a small thing. It's up to 6 times more often. I guess they were exceptionally rare. I'm not really aware of the Essence modifiers actually being all that insanely powerful anyway. So it's a bit of a bad sign when I don't even care about this change, because maybe it's just because of the build I'm running or whatever. Maybe for casters it matters a lot more, but I didn't think the Essence modifiers were actually all that exciting anyway. And so, I mean, it is what it is. Again, it's just kind of gives more credence to this notion that other crafting methods just aren't that potent, really. Here's a change I think is probably a good one. I don't really have anything negative to say about this one. Rogue Exiles don't have enough unique items, so we're increasing the frequency that they drop. I feel like Rogue Exile farming, target farming, lends itself to uniques farming more than anything. That certainly makes sense, the way that their drop pool works. And so I definitely think this is a good change, especially if you're trying to get like unique jewelry or something. And so yeah, just straight up good change. They should make Rogue Exiles better. They should make them drop more. They seem to be completely pointless in the current state of the game, so let's see more unique gear dropping from Rogue Exiles. Alright, now they decided to focus specifically on the Twisted Domain. This is the Zesht pinnacle content, particularly the part beforehand, the trash part, which is fine. Yeah, they're just improving the drops from the trash. I find this a little odd, because I feel like the major problem with that fight is that the boss loot is really bad. And that also, with the recent changes to Breach Splinters dropping automatically, they drop way too often now, and so it just completely smashed any excitement that you would possibly have about getting a Breach Stone. Nobody cares, and so it's not... I don't feel like it's because there's too few Breach Rings dropping, or too few Catalysts dropping, or something like that. I think it has to do more with just a terrible imbalance relative to the other Pinnacle content and what you have to do to get to it. I feel like Zesht is way too easy, way too accessible, and the loot is way too bad. And so they need to fix that on both ends. They actually need to now make breaches drop way fewer splinters now that they drop all together. And they need to pump up Zesht's boss loot, I would say. But at least this is... Technically, this is in a positive direction here, but I just see this as kind of missing the mark. There's a plethora of changes coming to Expedition Logbooks. I see this as overall pretty good positive. It looks like somebody was working really hard on trying to make Expedition more fulfilling content. I feel like it was just a bit weak, and it's one of those things that, on my end, I don't really enjoy that type of gameplay, but I've always thought of Expedition as one of the best mechanics they've ever come out with back in PoE1. And so, you know, aside from the fact that they just strung it back into the new game, I do think Expedition in general is a great mechanic, and I'm really happy to see them working hard on trying to make it a lot better. I would like to see a world where logbooks are considered one of the premium ways to farm currency, and it looks like they're doing a lot of different things in here. They're adding different cool, unique things to specific maps. I'm not going to go into detail. You can read it, pause the video right here if you want. Personally, I'm not going to be getting a big kick out of this probably unless it comes to my attention that it's just a really kick-ass way to farm currency, then I will. I've done logbooks in the past. It's just a little bit too slow-moving. It's more methodical. It's like playing chess in Path of Exile, a little bit like that, if you will. And so you're planning out everything, and you got all the time in the world to do it, and then you knock the dominoes over. And yeah, not my cup of tea, but I definitely think it's a terrific game mechanic that they came out with. All right, now we have endgame content in general, mapping in particular. So there's a lot of stuff in here that means a great deal to me. First off, an adjustment to the variety of map types. I definitely think this is a problem. I didn't realize that Hidden Grotto apparently is in like a third of all maps that you run. That's a little hard to believe, actually. I didn't think it was that much. It felt like maybe 15 to 20% of all maps are Hidden Grotto, but for whatever reason, that's how it is, and so that needs to be fixed for sure. We need some more variety of maps. At least I'm not seeing Mire all that much anymore, but yeah, a lot of people have asked for a way to change the maps, some sort of horizon orbing, but they don't seem to have that in the cards as of yet. Another change that is really good for SSF, not going to impact trade players all that much, But we have citadels being able to spawn in variety more easily. So whenever you spawn a citadel, you will naturally spawn the other 2 remaining citadels that you haven't done yet. All 3 different citadels will spawn in a certain area basically at all times. And so that's going to be that. I mean, there's no downside to that whatsoever in Trade League. It's just purely upside for convenience, and players who prefer not to use the currency exchange or prefer not to play trade, I think that's nothing but a net positive overall. A little bit further down, we have some comments on ritual and evidently volatile plants, which is the purple sort of explosion after death effect, which is pure chaos damage, has been killing a lot of players. Over 50% of deaths there, and I just did like 100 ritual maps kind of informally. Did die a few times to that. Makes it really precarious. It's in the entire game, like any rare monster can have it, but it's especially bad in ritual for whatever reason. Probably just because you're trapped in an arena. They do despawn when the ritual ends, but it's kind of wild that it's so bad. I think part of this is the players are just not feeling enough incentive to get chaos res, because it seems to be like the only thing in the game, except from like monsters do extra damage, is chaos modifier that might randomly occasionally be on your map or your waystone. Aside from that, this seems to be the only bit of chaos damage that I've noticed in game. And so this by itself, I mean, if you're a ritual farmer, you're going to want to deal with it, but I think it's fine. You know, if it really is the hallmark of deaths for the player base at large, they should definitely tune that down so we can get some more even-handed threats in the game. They're mentioning here at the bottom that there's a couple other map modifiers. I think they're indirectly mentioning temp chains. They're going to make that maybe a little less egregious. And then elemental pen is a crazy strong waystone modifier when you have increased effect of modifiers on your waystone. That ends up being like 45% elemental pen or something like that when you're really juicing. It's definitely an affix that I will not pair with any other dangerous affix. Otherwise, I ain't running that map. I'm not doing gain as extra elemental damage plus elemental pen ever. I mean, that just kill me. I could have like 10,000 HP and it's still just going to wreck my face. So definitely probably a good idea to help reduce that. I mean, it's a little bit on me because here you go, 200% increased effective waystone modifiers. You get what you get. But yeah, it's definitely a good thing that they're going to tone some of that down, I think. Nice little change to Trial of Sekhemas. Back in 0.1, I played a CI monk, and yeah, that was the bane of my existence. Either getting the 0 evasion or the 0 energy shield, but for sure 0 energy shield, automatic brick, or whether you're doing a no-hit run at that point. And so to change that to make it half energy shield down, that's definitely a good thing, I think. Now, then we have a little bit of section on afflictions and boons, and I guess I wasn't really aware of this. There were some bugs where they're getting, not the right boons or just getting some of the wrong ones. The same ones keep repeating, so that's a nice change. I did a lot of Trial of Sekhemas in 0.1, not this time around. So maybe it was a problem before and just wasn't really fixed. But anyway, whatever that is, probably a good idea to fix that. Looks like we're going to have some better integration with the search functionality for passive tree, being able to zone straight to an area. I would like to see something along the same lines with more improvements to the atlas viewing. We do have bookmarks in there now, but that's a little bit clunky for sure. Then we got the enormous requested reversal of the tier system. So tier 1 used to mean the highest tier roll of a particular item, armor, or whatever. Now it means the lowest roll, and it just goes up to whatever the highest number is. Now, that kind of made sense to me in the beginning. Certainly, if you're like a super casual and you don't really have the game knowledge to know how to differentiate between the quality of items, the fact that the lowest tier is, the lowest number, 1, is definitely helpful to help discern what an upgrade probably is. Although it obviously doesn't encompass everything about determining an upgrade. So there's a lot to figure out there. But aside from that particular scenario and that player, it definitely just seems like a downside. The fact that we can't determine what the maximum tier of an item is, and for the sake of crafting or anything in-game related, it becomes definitely a major annoyance. So this is kind of a question of whether we're going to cater to the ultra casuals who have basically no game knowledge, which makes sense in an environment where they're trying to make the game way more new player friendly in a variety of ways. I understand why they made that change, but it definitely at the cost of convenience for the endgame players. So the fact that they are reversing this back I mean, on a personal level, I'm happy about it. I don't really see it as like the be-all end-all, but if it was truly requested to that extent, then it's probably good. So it looks like we are getting a little bit of clarity on the Atlas, but not exactly in the ways that I was imagining. So more easily discerning between corrupted and cleansed stuff, not just looking at the little thing, as it were. But yeah, it is nice to be able to see, you know, +1 level and a monster has a special encounter, that sort of thing. It would be nice if that shows up a bit better. Well, you didn't have to convince me that there were performance issues in the game. I guess there's performance improvement. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm having a lot of game crashes. I'm playing a build that has a lot of stress on the server and GPU and all that stuff. We'll see, but definitely getting some bottlenecks on my end. And yeah, I'm definitely hoping that whatever they do, I want them to continually trying to improve the performance. There's been a lot of issues for a lot of players on high-end systems. Low-end systems doesn't matter, and so there's major issues. Hopefully, this being a new game, there's not that much of an excuse for them, considering they were able to start off the programming from the ground up on a new game. So you would think that it would be a little bit cleaner, less spaghetti code going on. But at any rate, it still seems pretty rough, and so we'll see how things turn out. And the last section, the conclusion, then saying that they're hoping that they can get this done within the end of next week, but the fact that they mentioned that they're staying flexible probably means it will take longer than that. So I'm all ears. I'll be waiting eagerly to see this improvement. As far as for me, personally, I think the biggest change is probably in the omens as to how it'll affect the way I'm playing the game. It's going to mean a lot of different things. It's going to mean the price of omens may go down, or they may not go down. It just might be way more people playing and crafting with them as well. They're going to be more common. Going to be way, way, way more people farming ritual, I would say, at least until the economy equalizes. It's probably going to be a massive dump of omens going on right now as we speak on trade. So I would be willing to bet that if I went to trade right now, whittling omens probably are no longer about 6 divines apiece. But who knows? I could be wrong. I'm just saying that off the top. Who knows? But anyway, guys, yeah, as I said in the beginning, I'm going to keep playing. I was going to play continuously anyway. I've been enjoying the game, even the end game, looking at different things. I wanted to do like a really hyper cleansed map farming focus because I noticed a lot of unique precursors and currencies dropping from that. Ritual caught my eyes recently. I haven't done a formal thing on that. Thought about doing like trial of Sekhemas again to see what became of that. But what I definitely think I'm going to do, because omens are the most impactful thing going on right now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to farm 100 ritual maps before and after. I kind of like this thing that I did with the breach, you know, before and after. So we'll see how many omens I get before and then how many omens I get after, and that'll give a good, paint a good picture as to how impactful the change really was. I guess we'll see. But that's it, guys. Here is an update for you on the current upcoming patch that's going to come out and make the game better, hopefully. But that's it for me. If you have any questions, or let us know whatever is most exciting for you on these changes, if it's going to bring you back into the game, or if you're just going to keep playing like you were anyway, or if you're going to stay away like you were anyway, let us know in the comments below. And yeah, I look forward to seeing those. So that's it. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next video.